Singapore. Mabel Rose Chen was a perfect daughter. She knew this because everybody said it. Mabel is the perfect daughter. Her grades, her music, her sports, her manners, her hair. You must be so proud. She didn't want to be perfect. She wanted to be necessary. Her parents had raised 3 sons ahead of Mabel. She was the surprise. Her brothers were all in college. She was the afterthought. For a while, her nickname had been Tag, for tag-along, until she asked them to stop. Her parents were probably tired of raising her, tired of overseeing and reminding and prodding kids. That must be why they were sending her away to boarding school in Switzerland for the summer. They said it was to perfect her French. Mabel knew they wanted to get rid of her. Something was wrong in the house. Mabel had always been the youngest one in the room, and that had taught her how to listen, how to become invisible in a room full of people talking. Her father had been up since 4 a.m. Her mother had taken 3 aspirins and snapped at Mabel when she asked what was for dinner. Now, they were in the study with the door closed. One of the unbreakable rules of the household was this. The Chen children had to stay out of Cahill business until they were 21. The thing about being a perfect daughter was that nobody suspected that you might not be so perfect. That maybe you were fascinated by the fact that you belonged to this powerful family, and maybe you weren't so great at violin or tennis or French, but you were very, very good at spying. Mabel tiptoed to her mother's office. She had guessed her password long ago. What would it hurt if she went back and looked at the ECAT chatter from the past few weeks, and had a peek at some emails? She'd already done her homework. She booted up and started to read. After a few minutes, her heart began to pound. She had to get up and walk around the room to get calm. Then she went back to reading. "I know what you're thinking," Sammy said as they left the alley and headed to the main road. "The Chens gave that dinner, and sure, it looks suspicious, but it was a welcome dinner for a fellow ECAT, so of course they invited Patricia. It doesn't mean they know the outcast." "I'm not thinking anything," Nellie answered. "We're just gathering information." But a tiny tendril of suspicion had taken root. "We have a more immediate problem," Sammy said. "I think we're being followed." Who? "I don't know. It's a feeling on the back of my neck. I keep looking in shop windows and just missing something out of the corner of my eye. Just now, I turned and someone quickly stepped into a food stall. Let's keep moving." Nellie knew better than to look back. It was now close to 6 in the evening, and the street was crowded. She'd been walking without noticing anything, her head still focused on the scant information Janaida had given them, trying to extract a lead from the tangle. Now her nerves jumped to high alert. Sammy picked up the pace. "You see that bus ahead? Let's jump on. Let's just get in line." Nellie said. I want to flush whoever it is out. People pressed against them as they approached the bus stop. Nellie took her sunglasses off and pretended to polish them. She looked around her, keeping her face down. It was impossible to tell if someone was really on their trail. Food stalls had opened, and people were spilling out of buildings, heading to cafes before going home. No lining up for buses. It was a warm, lovely evening, and people were strolling, enjoying the air. The bus lumbered to a stop. People shuffled forward. The bus was completely jammed, and some tried to press themselves aboard. The doors slammed shut, the aisles full. The bus took off smoothly, leaving several people on the sidewalk. Rush hour in Singapore, a man said next to her. He shrugged. What can you do? Now I'm going to miss meeting my friend. He gave them an easygoing smile. He'll just have to start without me. Unless, taxis are expensive, but we could split the fare. Where are you going? I'm in the Colonial District. There was no way Nellie was getting into a car with a random guy. He looked like any normal person, but a little tired after a long day. Dressed casually in shorts and sandals, but all her senses were on alert. She fanned herself with her hand, but all the while she studied him carefully. Thanks, but we're not too far. I think we'll walk, she said. Such a beautiful day. Nice meeting you. They started to walk off. I don't trust him, Nellie murmured. Let's see if he follows us. Isn't the idea to get away from the guy? Sammy asked. I want to see if I could get a photo, she said. Kara can run it through her ID software. As they turned at the next corner, she glanced in a shop window. Was he back there? She saw the flash of a white shirt, a tanned arm. They hurried down the road and crossed into a green park. Sammy checked his phone. If we walk straight through here, we'll come to an MRT station. We can catch a train back. I don't know if we're being followed, but I know how strict meal times are at the Chens. Nellie gave a quick look back, but she didn't spot the man who had spoken to them at the bus stop. What if he'd just been a normal, friendly guy? Near a fountain with squealing children, she saw a different man enter the park. He looked like every other tourist in a white shirt and a Panama hat that shadowed his features. Had she noticed him before on the streets? Something in the way he moved made her take a second look. She flashed back to the busy street. He'd been the pedestrian munching on a sweet from the vendor. Now, as he walked, she noted a coiled energy about him that he was trying to disguise with an ambling stride. Too far away to get a photo, and the hat shadowed his face. Nellie suddenly felt a prick of foreboding. She'd learned to trust her instincts. Let's go this way. She pulled Sammy off the path. If they cut through this grove of trees, it should bring them closer to the train station. Within a few steps, it was as though they'd plunged into a deep tropical forest. The trees were planted thickly here, and the branches shut out the last of the light and cut off the sounds of the park. Nellie could hear some children playing a game, but that seemed far away. They were alone. It seemed as though anybody in Singapore, well, nobody in Singapore ever strayed off the neat pathways, except